your pony knowledge by. Oh, better. I got a place where winning ain't tough to do. You wanna be cool, StableDuel. Your horse racing fantasy come true. But no, StableDuel.
Download the StableDuel app and play today.
Happy Friday to you. Thanks for hanging out with us here again on this weekend in StableDuel. We've got Barry Spears, the sniper, here alongside Gino Bucola. Matt DeSantis wasn't able to join us this morning, but you can always follow him at Fail to Menace for great racing content. Buddy, this is a big weekend for StableDuel. They're going to get their first harness racing games underway this weekend. There's a test game going on today, but Sunday is their first harness StableDuel game, 5 p.m. Sunday at Mohegan, Pennsylvania. So we are going to be pumping that over the next few days. Over the weekend, we'll give you more information on how you can get involved in that contest and the entire new world of the harness races that's opened up. One thing I like about you is you fall on the same rules as me. If it's thoroughbred, quarter horse, harness, if there's 5-1, there's 5-1. If we can bet on it, we'll throw a bet on it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I dabble a lot actually. Usually on Friday nights.
Little Meadowlands, right?
Yeah. The Meadowlands, like Mobine.
Yep.
Play the Yonkers a little bit. So yeah, spread it around a little.
That was when I started at TVG. The Monday and Tuesday shifts when you were in the handy capsule are a lot of the times the first shifts that they'll put on-air talent on when like to get them familiar with it. It's a little bit less intense, not as many people watching, kind of lower level racing a lot of the time. But what happens is on those Monday and Tuesday shifts, the way the schedule used to be, the later part of the day is like all harness. And nobody, I don't want to say nobody, most of the analysts that were around are all thoroughbred. So nobody really wanted to do that because it wasn't in their wheelhouse. It wasn't in their comfort zone. But I knew that was a way for me to get in, like a way for me to get more airtime, and I was like, I'll do it. And I didn't know harness racing at all. And I just like crash coursed myself, listened to everyone, picked it up, read, tried to get the verbiage down. And that sort of helped me focusing on Yonkers and Woodbine, got some of the people to care that I cared. Right. Because the hardest people started to appreciate that I was taking it seriously. And then that just helped me overall. So used to get bonkers for Yonkers. I had a graphic that was made. I wanted to get something that said Gino's got wood, but I don't know. They wouldn't let me do that one. So, we couldn't go in that direction. That was a little bit more R-rated on that one. But today, Barry and I will be talking about contests coming up this weekend. When I looked at the StableDuel menu just a few moments ago, it looked nice for Friday. Monmouth Park, Santa Anita, Gulfstream, Penn National. Tomorrow, Saturday, Santa Anita, Monmouth. We've got Woodbine, Gulfstream stuff all over the place. Barry, Penn National has a really big card tonight where they have 6 stakes races. They have the Grade 2 Penn Mile. Lots of fun stuff coming this weekend. You're going to dabble at Gulfstream Park a little bit, your neck of the woods. So let's head on over there for today, for Friday. You're going to look at 2 races for today, right? For races 3 and 7?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's get Gulfstream Park on up here, and why don't you navigate us to race number 3?
All right, so basically race number 3 is an optional claimer, 32,000, going 5.5 on the synthetic, everybody's favorite.
Mm-hmm.
It's a short field, and honestly, these horses are really evenly matched from what I can see. And of course, being the self-proclaimed king of the no chalk zone, I went with the longest shot on the board.
Got it.
Number 4, Sigaloso. Now, I almost automatically when you see morning lines like this, you have to know that Sigaloso is not going to be 12-1.
And when you're making your wagers pari-mutually, you've got to sort of pick your line, right? What do you think that horse should be if you're going to make a win wager? In StableDuel, Doesn't really matter.
Right. It's actually better when they're higher because if
Yeah.
they get bet down, it means they're probably a little bit live and probably wasn't deserving of that high morning line. And I think that's what we have here in Sigaloso. I mean, this horse has run twice on the synthetic, a second and a third place finish that you really don't see on his past performances. You have to go way back in order to find him. And actually, one of those races on the synthetic was at a mile and a half in a state bred stake and finished second in that race at 9-1, which was a really, really good effort. And I think getting back to the synthetic might be okay for this horse, not to mention the class relief. This horse has been running with some pretty good horses at 5 furlongs on the turf, and Big Invasion, Yes, I'm Free, Chess Master, Full Disclosure, who I mentioned last week. That was in a 5 furlong race that we ended up.
Air Force Red is a very nice horse too. Yep.
So the class relief combined with getting back to synthetic, I like the last 2 works, one on May 27th, one on May 14th on the synthetic. Everything is pointing to this horse running well. What price you get, I'm not really sure, but I know 12-1 is awfully high for a horse that has a pretty good shot to win.
Siglioso, I don't think will be that price. And as Barry navigated you through, I mean, you go through just the last 4 races. Those are worlds better than this. They're all on the grass, and this is a synthetic race where it's a different race shape. And as we've seen, this horse does have some success in these synthetic races where we've seen. So Siglioso, a nice find for Barry, and at 12-1 will only cost you $750 if you're playing a StableDuel contest today. You can play at Gulfstream in a $30 game. Some of the projected payouts, which is nice. Those StableDuel app upgrades are awesome. You get the projected payouts. You can watch the races live in some of them. $300 to the winner. It pays out the top 10 today. Even if you finish 10th, you could turn your $30 into 60 and double that up. Barry, you've got one more today at Gulfstream Park in race number 7. Let's head on over there to the 7th race, and we'll be looking at a 5 furlong synthetic sprint. Oh, I think you're muted.
Yeah, this is a condition claimer. 9 winners of 2 lifetime. I ended up on number 2, Spiteful Sis. Mainly for the reason I think this horse just lands in a good spot. A lot of the times, with the synthetic, it comes down to trip rather than, actually the best horse, because they, it's just the way that they run those races. It doesn't seem like the best horse wins all the time. And there's a lot of speed in here. Light and Path, the 3, has some speed. Wildcat Star, the 6, has some speed. Bullock, number 7, has some speed. And I think they're all going to line up and try to go for it here because, they're really, these aren't world beaters in here. And if you can kind of get an edge and get to the front with little resistance, you may be able to carry that speed. But I think this kind of sets up into a speed duel situation, and a horse that's not going to be too far off this pace is Spiteful Sis. This horse is on the improve. I know she just broke her maiden last time, April 19th at Tampa, but prior efforts on the synthetic were not that bad, and this horse is actually on the rise here.
Knocking on the door.
Exactly. The trainer has good success with horses second off this kind of a layoff, does well with synthetic runners. I mean, everything is pointing in this direction. And with all that speed in here, I don't think Miguel Vasquez is going to want to try to go for the lead. I think he's going to sit right behind that first flight and get first run and be right there at the finish.
Some big prices for Barry. A couple 12-1 shots. Both of them only $750 in your StableDuel lineup. So plenty of help for today for Friday. And if you were trying to play today, Buffalo's got a test game. You've got Monmouth, Santa Anita, Gulfstream, and Penn National. As I will head on over to Santa Anita, and I'll give you a couple plays that I had at Santa Anita today. There's a $10 game that I'm going to get involved in. And Barry, only a few weeks left over at Santa Anita, man. It's starting to get to that point where we're getting close to those summer meets now. about 6 weeks away from Saratoga and from Del Mar. So Santa Anita, that long meet that they've had, they're winding down. Still a few weeks left. What they've done that I really like over the last couple of years in Southern California, Barry, which I think really helps, they've been taking a lot of breaks in between the big meets. So like when Santa Anita ends, there's like a week and a half. They go to Los Al, and then sometimes there's even another week, and then they'll go to Del Mar. I think it really helps because in horse racing, it's one of the few sports that there's no off season.
No break.
There's no break, right? So the horses can individually take breaks, but just like the horses, sometimes the trainers and the jocks and some of the connections could use a few days to not have racing days. They don't get days off because those horses still got to get up in the morning and train and feed, and their stalls got to get clean. So even on a non-racing day, it's not a day off for them, but there needs to be some days where they just don't have to do that whole thing from top to bottom all the way through, right?
Yeah, that's rough. I mean, it's a long, long day. They they deserve everything they get, when they win. I mean, it's just such a tough business, top to bottom. And when you get the glory of winning after putting all this work in with no break, it's definitely worth it.
So I got a few for you folks on Friday, a little later on today at Santa Anita, if you want to play along. Let's go to race number 2. I got to be honest, this was one of those cards at Santa Anita that it might be difficult for you putting a StableDuel lineup together because there aren't that many big fields. There aren't as many opportunities for big prices. You may not win when that happens, but on a bigger racing day, when there are bigger fields, it's actually easier to put your lineup together because you can find a bunch of races where you're like, oh, there's a 10-1 shot or an 8-1 shot that I feel confident could run well. Some of these races, there aren't even horses that are those prices. You have small fields and it's like 5-2, 3-1, 9-5, 7-2. And you really got to like pick and choose because it's not based on value.
I mean,
it was difficult.
I know with some of those races, it's like, you don't want to spend up on a horse that may not win in a small field, like a 4 or 5 horse field. So you kind of, I kind of forced to take the longest shot on the board in those instances because it's just costing you less money.
Well, let's look at race number 2, for example. It's a $20,000 claimer. And in this race, the 1, Henny's Crazy Train, is 5-2. The 2, Bella Ranella, is 2-1. The 3, She's a Girly Girl, is 5-2. The 4, Flat Out Joy, is 4-1. And then you've got the 5, Indy Star, who's 5-1, who I actually like, is the longest shot in this field. This is a 6 furlong race on the dirt. And if you look at Indy Star, she's actually coming out of some decent races at Turf Paradise. What's happened in the last year or so, those races have actually gotten a little bit better again because a lot of the Southern California connections use Turf Paradise. She has form on the dirt that's good. She has form on the turf that's good. I honestly think she's just a better horse now than when she was running on the dirt before. You can tell her form has just perked up a little bit. I don't know if it's as much of the surface as it is just her becoming a better horse now. She's in the middle of her 4-year-old season. She's just grown up and developed. She's shown more speed recently, but she can also pass. Last time she was on the dirt, she was a 7.25 length winner. Prior to that, her other dirt race was going 5.5, and she sat nicely. And I think that's the trip that she'll get from the outside. She'll be more off the pace in here, just like you were pointing out in a StableDuel race where there's nobody that scares you in here. There's no monsters in this race at all. And she offers you way better value, and she's only about half the price as the others in StableDuel. That's the play for me in here. Always looking for the value with the one like that. The number 5, Indy's Star, 5-1 on the morning line. So I've got 2 more today. I'm going to go to race 3, and we'll go to race number 5. And if you want to follow along with us, we'll head over to Penn National after this because there are going to be some familiar names that you'll see when we pull up the races at Penn National. Some horses that you've seen running in stakes races all over. So Barry, I'm going to go next door to the number 4 Red Line. And this is the third race. Red Line is 5-1 on the morning line. This is a mile race on the turf. And it's another instance. It's almost identical to what just happened. We were talking about. Time to Party is 5-2. Spirit Maker is 4-1. Fantastic is 2-1. Red Line's 5, and Cane Creek Road is 5-2. So This is the longest shot in the field. But when you look at the field, I do think Cane Creek Road has an opportunity to go gate to wire if he's ready. He is the lone speed in here, but his recent form, you wonder how fit he is, because his last race was in a $32,000 claiming race, and the claim was voided that day. And it was coming off a couple month layoff. And then following that, he goes back to the bench. So physical issues, they concern you a little bit for a horse at a short price, but he's on the lead. And then the rest of this field, the 1 doesn't have speed. The 2, mid-pack sitting. Fantastic is a closer. And you have these 2. So Cane Creek Road's going to be on the lead. Look at the races that Redline is exiting. These are fast sprint races where they're going really quick to the half mile into the first quarter. I think sort of by default, this horse is going to be sitting in a perfect spot, probably right behind the 5.
Mm-hmm.
I think the 4 is going to be sitting in second. Look at the last time he stretched out to a mile when he was in this 50 starter allowance. He sat that exact trip that we were looking for, where you sat second, just off the pace, kind of moved to it. And that was in a 50 starter. Like we've seen, this is a level that's good for him. He's been second in 3 of his last 4 races. He just didn't have as much speed in those races sprinting. So that's why he was behind. I think we do this in these smaller fields sometimes. You go process of elimination, you start eliminating horses. The inside 3 don't have enough speed for me, so it's got to be one of the outside 2. And this horse is probably going to be double the price as the 5, and maybe a little fitter, has recent form, and could be just in a perfect spot, Barry, if the outside horse gets a little tired and a little bit short off the layoff. So I like Redline here at 5-1, and maybe we don't have some 15-1 shots, but in back-to-back races, if we can beat some favorites and we can maybe find some separators here where everyone else is going shorter, that may be a way we can do well, in these StableDuel contests. And, those are good pick 4, pick 5 type horses.
Yeah, especially this one. I know when it looks on paper a certain way, like, on paper, this looks like lone speed in Cane Creek Road, but that's definitely not the case. I think Redline's going to be right there pressing him, and he might actually be a better horse, period.
Agree. And rider intent in the smaller fields is really key. And you have a guy like Ramon Vasquez, who's just a really good speed rider. That's always been what he does really well. And he's had good success out here in Southern California because of it, because he's able to get good horses that have speed out of the gate, get him to relax. I think this one will be close up early. He exits a race with 2 next out winners. The race he comes out of was good. Also, too, you start diving back into his form. You see for Redline, before the recall and reload race back here, he's behind Straight No Chaser, who we just saw come back and absolutely crush at Pimlico a couple weeks before. Then Rebel Posse and Noble Reflection, both of them come back to win their next starts. I mentioned 2 next out winners in the last race. Now you're going to the last 5 races, and they've been pretty tough. So Redline, let's hope he can get a good trip in here. The number 4, Redline at 5-1. I have one more to show on Santa Anita at Friday. I wanted to pull up the race replay on this one so we could get a good idea. As Barry and I look at the past performances for daily racing form for DRF, you can actually get Formulator past performances for free if you sign up for a DRF Bets account. And every time you wager $50, they put another credit in your account. So if you're wagering, you won't have to be spending a whole lot on past performances, which is something I love. I think as bettors, if we're putting our money into the pools, we shouldn't have to be spending a whole lot on the past performances and on the research. It doesn't happen in a whole lot of other industries, Barry. Just the type of thing that you would talk about on Going in Circles, right? On a big Monday with Chuck Simon. Give us a little plug for that.
Yeah, every Monday, Going in Circles, we do our thing. Usually comes out Tuesday morning, late Monday night. But we really kind of talk about the pulse of the racing industry, good, bad, or otherwise. We kind of recap things that happened during the week, and then hopefully we can offer some solutions to help bring this sport back to prominence like it once was.
Well, let's dive on into race number 5. as I look at the number 6 Miss Polo Bar. This is a 3-year-old filly who debuted on March the 25th, and in that race, she showed really good speed, finished 4th, only beaten a couple lengths, but it was a good effort for your debut. Comes back in career start number 2. And on April the 21st, going 6 furlongs on the turf, she had some legitimate trouble this day. So Miss Polo Bar is the number 8 that we're going to watch, Barry. And you can see she's quick because she has a really good start. First call. She's fastest out the gate. But what's she going to do? 3 other horses to her inside all show speed. Are they supposed to go as fast as they can and try to get over and in front? Maybe. That's kind of tough to do when you're way out there sprinting on the turf. You don't got a whole lot of room. So she actually sits a pretty good trip here. End up sitting 4th, just about, 2 or 3 lengths off. And I don't know what happened right here, Barry. Watch how sort of strange this is. So she goes from the 2 path here, and as she moves up, she gets in front of the 5 in front of her, and so she gets down to the rail, and that ends up being a hindrance. So right here, she gets kind of trapped. She's inside of the 2 horse now, and watch the 8 Miss Polo Bar, who's sort of looming up into contention, but right here has nowhere to go. Tries to go up the inside, and you can see right here she has to kind of tap, and she steadies a little bit, can't get through that hole while everyone else just keeps going. Right here, she keeps trying, but her momentum was all really dulled.
Yeah, she was going forward when she got stopped, and it's hard to start back up again. I'd have to say, that wasn't the best decision to make as a rider. You probably could have kept on.
Angled around.
Right, and kind of angled on the flank of the 5 and just kept going and probably had a better shot. So, that was a winning effort. They just got stopped at the wrong time. It's very good find here.
So a couple different plays for you at Santa Anita for Friday. Barry will take us over. Or you know what? Let's keep going on Friday. I was going to say we're going to Saturday Gulfstream Park, but we've got some Penn to take a look at for Friday on a big Friday night at Penn National. Milo getting ready for school, having a tough time this morning on his way out. You've been there before
it's
years
Friday,
ago,
man.
Friend,
it's Friday, bro. It's Friday. You don't want to go. I don't want to go either.
No, nobody wants to roll there on a Friday.
It's funny is because today's my daughter's last day of school, so she was all up, ready to go. Probably
she's excited today.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is the first day of school. You're like, I haven't seen this kind of energy.
How come the last 6 months when I need to get you up every morning, you're not ready to rock and roll? But today, What do you need, Dad? I'm happy for you. Yeah.
Right? Doing the moonwalk, everything.
Oh, that's great. So, Breezy, hope Breezy has a great summer there with you, my man. Tonight at Penn National, we have a $30 game, $3,000 in prizes. It's the $3,000 Penn Mile Showdown. And there's big money up for grabs, big money on the line. We don't get the chance to talk about Penn National all that often, but they do have a couple days of the year, Barry, that are very big racing days. And this is one of them where you have some really nice horses that end up shipping out to Penn to run in the Penn Mile and some of the other undercard stakes races. Okay, let's pull it up.
Yeah, it's definitely a good day to bet on these races.
Yeah, I mean you get familiar with some of these horses, and it's sort of surprising on a Friday night. You're like, oh, that horse is running out at Penn tonight. The stakes action starts, I believe, in race number 4 with anticipation, and that's where actually the stakes action starts in the 3rd. But I'm going to head to race number 4 for my first play of the day. It is a 1 1/16 miles on the turf course. And I'm actually going to have 3 plays, and all of them are 10-to-1 shots that I'm going to be using on Friday night at Penn National. So we should be able to give you a little bit of help and some flexibility for your StableDuel lineups for Friday night. Here's a look at race number 4. So this is the 1 1/16 miles on the turf with anticipation. And the number 7 Crisper is very interesting to me because looking at this race, Is it taking a second to load? Looking at this race, there's a good amount of speed. We're going to see the 1 DJ who has some speed. We're going to see the 5 Caddy's uncle who has some speed. We are going to see trending up, coming from off the pace a little bit more. By Land and C, Nice Ace will both be showing speed. And it leads me to the number 7, Crisper, who is coming off of a layoff, but I love to find horses that have already showed they don't have a problem coming off a layoff, and that is Crisper in here. Oh my goodness, we are struggling right now. Just trying to get trying to get this pulled up. There we go. Okay, Crisper is at 10-1. So he broke his maiden off of a similar type layoff. You can see from January to June of 2022. He was off in January 2022, shows back up in June. It's his first start on the turf, and he wins. And he wins at 5-1. The thing with Crisper, Barry, is he's just more of a closer. And in this particular race, he's finally going to get some pace to run at. This is a barn that's super capable with horses coming off of a layoff like this. They've won with 3 of their last 20, so they can get the job done with the right type of horse at the right type of price. And we see Crisper is a horse who has not raced since December. He's now making his first start at 4. And with just the 2 horses to his outside even, pushing the pace, he will get some pace to run at. He's going to sit back. He's going to make that 1 late run. Crisper, just key off his turf form overall. Really nice turf form here. And 10-1 on the morning line. So it will only cost us 1,000 in our StableDuel lineups.
He was crisp that day, but we need him to be crisper.
Oh, that hunch.
Yeah,
I like that. I like
yeah.
that. Very well played. Very well played. So right next door, we've got another stakes race. It's the Penn Oaks, $150,000 up for grabs in race number 5. They will be going a mile on the turf course. And I'm looking at the 5 in here. We know a couple of these horses. Here's our friend Malimu, number 3. Malimu, who we've played a little bit. Malimu was 4th recently, was only beaten 3/4 of a length at Keeneland. Tried a couple graded stakes races, had legit trouble in the weight a while. The one I'm looking to is the 8. So this last race was really impressive visually. I'd like to pull it up. We're going to watch the number 4 in here. So if you just sort of look at her pattern before we watch the race, career debut at Saratoga, gets some action, but just has trouble, and then comes back in a softer spot in career start number 2 at the Meadowlands, that Monmouth at the Meadowlands turf meet, and wins nicely. And then she's off from September to May. She shows back up in May, and take a look at her effort here at Indy. And it's one that I was pretty impressed by. So let's pull her up. And when she starts, you can see the traffic trouble pretty early on. We are just struggling today, my friend, with our our internet. There we go. Or we don't go. So Seleniana, who was 10-1 on the morning line, had some legitimate early traffic trouble last time out and was kind of shifted back to 8th, was shuffled, was about 5 lengths off, was full of run, was behind horses. Here we go. And just had nowhere to go inside. So Seleniana at 10-1, and just looking at like speed figures of this race, Barry, I don't know if this one is going to cooperate with us all that much this morning, but Seleniana for Jonathan Thomas had the time off. And what you talk about quite a bit, look at the growth and development in like the speed figures for this filly from 2 to 3 when she showed back up at 3, and what a big effort that was. And now, can she take another step forward? When you watch her visually, she looks like that wow type of horse. She got a nice opening up the inside. She explodes up the rail. She's 10-1 on the morning line. And she's going to be value in here because the 9 will get bet for Chad Brown and Irad Ortiz. Royalty interest, no doubt about it. You have the 5, Princess Bettina, who was a recent stakes winner, now heads into the Pletcher barn. This one is going to get bet. So I feel like a horse who's 10-1 out there. People know Malimu. They'll get some support here. Let's go to the 8. Seleniana. I wanted to do the old, like, anything for Salinas, but I kept saying this one outside. Selena Ia. Selena Iaya. I was trying to sound it out. It was like a hooked on phonics thing. It just wasn't going. It wasn't
It
going
just
well for me.
doesn't
Yeah.
smoothly flow.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't.
But yeah, I like horses like this. Like you mentioned that come back off the bench from 2-year-old to the 3-year-old year that show improvement. There's usually another step up in there. Um, you know, I think this is a good spot because usually, we're halfway through the year, almost exactly, and these kind of horses just kind of come into their own, especially in a division like this where there really isn't, it's kind of always a little iffy anyway until somebody steps up. Maybe this is it for Selena, yeah,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah,
What you
Selena.
said. Yeah, yeah.
What he said. What she. So the next race is the Grade 2 Penn Mile. I don't really have a strong play in here because I think that the chalks are probably going to be pretty tough. Major Dude, who's been very honest, and he was in that tough American turf behind Webslinger and Far Bridge. He was only beaten a half length that day. Candidate, who was also in there. He's right back in here. He can be a little bit more forwardly placed. He had a brutal trip in that very same race, coming off of a good effort in the Kitten's Joy. We have Behind Enemy Lines, who was also in that race and had a little bit of trouble. That was just my problem, Barry. I really couldn't get around the top horses here. And I didn't even know if Behind Enemy Lines had as much trouble as Candidate or was quite as good as Major Dude. I think he'd probably have to improve to get the better on them. So this was sort of a kind of a skip race for me, but those are nice horses. Like Major Dude is legit. He's showed up on all surfaces too, and very honest horse.
Yeah, if I had to choose in this race, I'd probably go with Candidate. Major Dude's definitely probably the best 3-year-old out there at this point.
And Candidate probably get a little more forwardly placed in here. First time gelding, you get the ultimate equipment change there for Candidate. One more for me as we get to the 8th race. And this one was interesting. So look at the number 5 in here. This is a Pennsylvania bred 3-year-old race for fillies. So we have 3-year-old fillies that are Pennsylvania bred sprinting on the dirt. If we dive into the number 5, Simply Stated, this filly debuted back in August against Open Company. So in her debut race, she beats Open Company. She's not running against state breds. Very impressive. How about her second start? She finishes second against the boys. She runs against the boys and against Open Company. Now, Barry, she moves in with Pennsylvania bred fillies. Think about the drop in class from the last race that she ran to this spot. Open Company and boys versus now just Pennsylvania bred fillies. I think this is going to be massive class relief for her. And you just sort of look at her pattern. She's got ability. She wins her debut. Then she's off from August to May. She shows back up in May. And you know what it looked like? It looks like they may have been searching for a race to prep her for this.
Right.
And they couldn't find anything. And that was like the only race that could, like, timing wise, that fit. So they put her in there against tougher company just to make sure she had a race under her belt so she could be fit for this one. I feel like that had to have been the plan for a horse like this because I think she's primed and ready for this spot. I really do. She sat a nice trip. And again, she can go second start off the bench. They know what to do over here. This barn, Bernie Houghton barn, really knows how to get these horses placed in the right spot. I'm sure this was a race that they had circled. Simply Stated, who is 10-1 on the morning line for StableDuel, will only cost you $1,000. And again, if we're just looking at like buyer speed figures, this horse's last race was a 71 buyer speed figure, which the only tapping Josie.
There's no way this horse is going to be 10-1.
Right? No shot. So in a StableDuel situation, go and get this one right away because this horse probably opens up at like 7-2, on first click. Simply Stated, the number 5. So look at Penn National for Friday, a big night with 6 stakes races, a graded stakes, and $3,000 up for grabs in StableDuel prizes. Let's head over to Saturday. You've got a couple plays at Saturday, right, my friend, for Gulfstream Park?
Absolutely.
Let's dive there to Saturday to Gulfstream. Tell us where we're headed at Gulfstream Park. What, 3 and 9?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Race number 3, 5.5 on the synthetic, $10,000 claimers. Take it away.
Yeah, this is one of those races I always refer to as like the quintessential synthetic race. Are these low-level claimers on synthetics going 5.5 or longer, but 10,000 down to 62.5 or 6,250. Those are like the bread and butter, and that's what we have here. I ended up on number 6, Doo-Wop Don. This horse has run good on synthetic, run 3 times on the synthetic. I think the last time was really, really key because the horse was stuck on the inside, showed some interest late, but it was the first time at this level in a long time. Straight $10,000 claimer. The last time that horse was in at that level was at the same distance and almost did the exact same thing. Just kind of rallied and finished second. I think that second time at this level is going to do this horse a lot of good. I think this horse is going to be closer to the pace. There's enough speed in here to keep this race honest. You got Cajun Mandate, who has speed. Frosted Faith, the favorite, who'll have speed. And this one isn't going to be too far off that. I mean, even the 7 will show some speed on occasion. I don't think this horse is going to have to be way too far back. But at this level, definitely fits and will be motoring home late. But I like Doo-Wop Don's chances today.
Now,
tomorrow.
guys, you better watch out. Some girls are only about that thing.
There it
Doo-Wop,
is.
that thing, baby. Love it. Little Doo-Wop Don for Barry at Gulfstream Park. Race number 3 on Saturday. One more for the sniper on the Saturday card. Then I'll head over to Santa Anita and dish out a few. Barry, my man, talk to us about race number 9. Have it be something that I can sing, please.
Um,
I'm just kidding. Barry's
we like the singing though.
He's trying
We
to
like
call an
that.
audible. I was gonna say you're trying to call an audible right now. You're looking like, oh, there's a Moana. Okay. Where's the rock?
I know I should switch to that horse, but that's not the one I picked. So this is a state bred optional claimer, 20,000 going 5.5 on the synthetic, and this is another one of those kind of races that you'll see a lot of during the summer meet at Gulfstream. I ended up on number 5, Sienna Lady. There's a lot to like here, even though this horse has only run 4 times. Getting blinkers, first and foremost, signifies, kind of a makeover package. Not to mention this horse is coming from the turf back to the synthetic, which adds to that appeal. I like the workout on May 27th on the synthetic, 8 out of 21 that day. You don't really see too many synthetic works, but when they do have them and they're pretty good, it's something to definitely keep an eye on. The trainer does really well, 21% with synthetic runners. This horse's 2 synthetic races were not that bad. One of them obviously is the maiden breaking win on March 2nd. And really in this race, there's really a lot of speed, and this horse seems to be the best closer. And that's what we're going with. The one Beauty of the Sea has a lot of speed. Moana's Power has some speed. Meet Me at the Beach has some speed. Come On, number 4, has speed. The maiden breaking win at Pimlico was on the lead. Love Making
This
Sense.
angle
The
works
6
well for you.
It does. It all the time. I
The
mean,
lone closer angle, for you for some reason, when you find it, it does. It's something that I've seen work really well for you, because what ends up happening some of the times, I think people dismiss horses that they think aren't quite good enough. because even with the running style, right? They'll be like, that horse isn't good enough though. But you'll give them an opportunity, even if they're not quite as like proven, or maybe they're not as good of a horse overall, but race shape is the equalizer,
Yes.
right? Like pace is the equalizer if there's too much pace or if there's not enough pace. So pace can always be the equalizer for horses that are not quite as good, but win. Because if the best horse won every race, why would we be sitting here? We wouldn't, right? We wouldn't, nobody would be doing what we're doing. So I think those are one of the best times to get a price on a horse, because people, I don't want to use that closer who's not as good as the others, but they fit.
That's how we got a couple of, like, Front Run the Fed.
Yes,
Uh
absolutely.
the one last week, what was the name of that horse? Amon.
Yep. Same exact thing.
Same situation. And it comes up, often enough where you can get good prices on horses that, everybody kind of falls asleep on. And hopefully this can happen with Sienna Lady. I gather this horse will be somewhere around this 9-2 price. And that's okay with me. I'm taking it.
Couple for Barry on Saturday over at Gulfstream Park. I will finish up at Santa Anita for Saturday, dishing out a few. I'm going to look at races 1, 8, and 9, give you a couple to throw in your StableDuel lineups. Don't forget, StableDuel.com is where you can go to download the app, or you can go to the app store on your phones, on your iPad. Daily horse racing contest. Some days games as low as $1. Some days they have free games with actual cash prizes. Then they have games all the way up to 100 or bigger format games. They have huge games on big days like Pimlico, where they were giving out $10,000 in prizes. Tonight at Penn, $3,000 in prizes, and another contest for you tomorrow at Santa Anita. Here's a couple to use in your lineups and to also use and play around in the pick 4s and pick 5s or any other exotic wagers that you're playing. Right in the opener on Saturday, 6.5 on the turf, and it's the straight 6.5. There is just no speed in this race. El Oro is not fast. Missed Call is cutting back from 1 1/16, where he showed a little bit of speed. Greenbow is not fast. Battle Call is not fast. And Tiger Horn only has shown speed when going longer. You go back to the 2 in here, JD's Rude Boy. He's actually exiting a race where it was a 6.5 furlong sprint, and he was right on the lead. And he just sort of pushed through to the front and ended up drawing off and winning. Now, you look at his turf form, and it may look like he's not very good on the grass because he's run twice on it. The only thing is they were both going long. And this is a sprint race. Look at his sprint form. So like his 2 career best races are his first race and his most recent race. When he closed sprinting, he finished second on the synthetic at Golden Gate in an open maiden special weight. And then in his most recent race, sprinting again. And that was the first time after 3 races going longer. Because he's actually bred to be okay on the turf. That's what's great about the past performances that we're looking at with Daily Racing Form, the Formulator PPs. You can just click on the pedigree and it'll take you right to see that he had a sibling here that won on the turf. And he had another sibling, Call Me Jesse James, that was a 3-time turf winner. So it would be no surprise to see this horse be fine on the grass. I just think it was more of a sprinting thing than it was not liking the turf, Barry. I just think going long isn't what this horse wants to do.
Yeah, he definitely looks like he wants to go shorter.
And he's not as good because he's coming out of some Calbred races too. So on paper, he may not look like he's as good as some of the others. But just like we were saying, the trip that he could get, he's drawn down towards the inside. I hope he's aggressively handled. Just ask for a little bit of speed, get a length on the field, and try to open up on him early.
That's what's up.
JD's Rude Boy, the number 2, 8-1 on the morning line, will only cost you $3,000 in your StableDuel lineups. 2 more at the back, and I'm going to do one thing that my good friend Barry always does. I'm going to give you that traditional get out late daily double, the bailout Barry daily double, and it goes through the grade 2 Summertime Oaks. The Alley's Look was third in the Kentucky Oaks at 30-1. She's now going to move into the Christopher Davis barn. She comes over here to run. And Tell Me No Lies was also in the Oaks there, doing it the hard way. A Baffert runner who earned a big figure in breaking the maiden. Ancient Peace has some legitimate ability. Anywho, 2 for 2. Looked nice sitting and winning. Earned a 90 buyer speed figure in doing so. The one that I'm going to go back to is the number 2, Window Shopping. So let's look at Window Shopping first. We can just kind of go through reform before we pull the race up. Debuts November the 13th, has a brutal trip on the turf. It says that she got sandwiched at the start. It was awful. She just got back and forth all the way out of it. And she was making up ground late, but she ran into traffic again. And then she was off from November to March. She shows back up in March. They put her in a race that was initially carded for the turf, but it was taken off the grass, and she crushed. And she was so impressive, Barry, that they said, we got to see if this horse is really good on the dirt. Like, let's try her in the Santa Anita Oaks. So they throw her in the Oaks. She's only 5-1 in this race. So let's watch the number 6 here. Window Shopping. Keep in mind, this is just the 3rd start of her career when she's running in the Santa Anita Oaks against a horse like Feza, who has a lot more seasoning. Slowish start, but she's going to be behind horses here and towards the back of the pack. So this is a field of 8. She's like 7th of 8, about 10 lengths out of it early on. But she gets into a nice stride here early. You can see she's down towards the rail. She's traveling pretty well as the 2 horses, a 90-1 shot that runs off. But as is the case when we're pulling these races up, you can almost project what's going to happen as you're watching Window Shopping right here. And you see her start to really travel well. There's a wall of horses in front of her. They have to make a decision, outside and really wide and around, or just sort of stay to the inside and hope you'll get a seam. Well, look at Window Shopping right here. She's got a ton of run and just nowhere to go. Absolutely nowhere to go. She's waiting on heels. She wants to go. She wants to go. No room. Okay, now she's got a little bit of a seam. Here she goes. Now she's making some ground. Watch the horse in front of her. Oh!
Skirt.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Dang.
Right as she's making her move, a horse in front of her backs up, steadies. Window Shopping loses like 2 to 3 lengths in all momentum. Most of the time, Barry, horses like that just pack it in, right? And they back up, and it's hard to re-rally. But look at Window Shopping. She comes all the way back again, moves up into contention, and she just misses second with Tell Me No Lies. I don't think she was going to beat Feza. Who knows? She had all of her momentum rolling that day. She would have been about right here. She would have been
closer, but yeah.
Indy 2 lengths behind Feza, but 2 lengths in front of Tell Me No Lies.
Right.
And that's the key to this race, is that this field, the rest of this group, I think she stacks up really well with them. And I think this filly has a ton of ability. Window Shopping. She'll be in the Grade 2 Summertime Oaks. She is 5-1 on the morning line. So that will only cost us $6,000 in our StableDuel lineup. One more to give out. Let's finish up with the 9th and final. It's a $32,000 claimer going a mile on the turf course. I'm going to look at the number 5 in here. Growth Engine. So this is one whose form makes a little sense. So I'd be surprised if this horse is the 8-1 price on the morning line, because Barry, this is an 11-year-old, but he's only run, or this is a 7-year-old, but he's only run 11 times. So he's got talent. He just hasn't been able to stay on the track. That's been his biggest problem. Look at each of these, look at all the gaps in his career. He runs twice and then he's off. He runs twice. He's off for a year. He shows back up in 2020. He runs 3 times. He wins 2 of them. They're good races. The one that he doesn't win is like a strong race at Saratoga where he finishes 3rd. He only runs 3 times in 2020. Then he's off till March. He shows up in March. He comes into Southern California, and they tried him in 2 stakes races that were actually pretty tough spots. just doesn't fire in 2021 at all in either one of them. But those are the only 2 races he runs. He shows back up in 2022 over a year later. He runs 1 time. And then he's off for 11 more months. Like, this poor horse has a ton of physical issues, right? But look at the level that he's at now. He's down to this lower level. Does this horse have any of these earlier races left in him? Because if he does, he is going to be so much fitter today than he has been in any of his recent races.
True.
This is the first time he's going second off the bench. And if you watched his race, he bobbles at the start. He gets caught 3 wide going into the turn, 3 wide in the second flight, and then he just is a little bit tired late. He runs exactly like a horse who needed the race. And it feels like he's a fit at this level. He wasn't beat a whole heck of a lot. He's going to offer you better value, and he should probably sit a pretty good trip in here. Just off. I like the number 5, Growth Engine, who is 8-1 on the morning line, will only cost you $3,000 in your StableDuel lineups. Lots of options this weekend. Friday games, Saturday games, different tracks all over. Penn National is the focus. Barry, my friend, final day of the school year for Breezy. What are you guys up to this weekend?
Nothing. A whole lot of nothing. Yeah.
A whole lot of chilling.
Exactly. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Maybe go over the beach tomorrow, but probably a lot of nothing.
Well, I hope you feel better. I know the last couple of weeks you've been not feeling quite as well. So let's kick that sickness over the weekend and make sure that you are all good to go for next week, which is a big week, Belmont week. So we won't be doing our normal show next week, but I promise you, I will take advantage of Barry and Matt and see if they can come on my show and record some Belmont talk with us, because there are, I think, 8 graded stakes races on a Saturday. They've made the Friday really good too now, leading into the Belmont. So I personally actually think this is my favorite of the days overall as a full day of the Derby, Preakness, and Belmont. I like, because the undercard is so strong, even if you don't have like a horse going for a Triple Crown. Really excited for what's going to be coming next week. But don't worry, this week we'll also make some money. RB, let's make some money this weekend, boys. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thanks so much, everyone, for hanging out with us on this Friday morning. So we won't be back next week, but 2 weeks from now, we'll be back again Friday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern. Don't forget, harness racing, standard bred action joins the StableDuel party and the family this weekend on Sunday. We'll give you all the details and important information about that. Barry, you have a great weekend with your family. Have fun with Breezy. Everyone, good luck in all your plays, and we'll see you again real soon. Make sure to get those entries in and play, race, win.
Better, you want to spread your pony